But the second part of that is the one of most interest to carry permit holders. That's the expanding the Castle Doctrine law. They call it the Stand Your Ground Bill. I don't know that that's the best phrasing I would have used, but it makes the point that if you're anywhere you have a legal right to be, walking down a street, walking your dog in a park, with your kids at some outdoor function, you're sitting in a restaurant, anywhere in the public sphere, and you have a legal right to be there, you shouldn't be required to retreat before using deadly force. Well, it sounds simple, but like everything else, the devil's in the details. Does it give us a little bit more protection if we pass that? Yes, it does raise the bar for prosecutors because it's a tool they no longer have directly in their toolbox. Well, Sue, you were a reluctant participant, you didn't provoke this confrontation, we agree you were reasonably in immediate fear in this, and you had no lesser force available, you had no other choice but to use your firearm, but you should have run away, right? So that's gone. But it doesn't mean that it's out. It just means that it's going to have to be handled a little differently. So both the pro-gun people and the anti-gun people are not correct when they say, oh, this will change everything. I've talked to prosecutors recently about this, and they say, oh yeah, they're already working on their tactics to how to get around that. Again, is it a good thing? Yes. Do I support it? Absolutely. But as with all things legal, caution is always the best watchword. And if I can get out of a situation without having to take another person's life, if for no other reason than pure self-serving, right, my life will be a lot less painful and a lot less expensive if I don't have to shoot somebody. So even for purely selfish reasons, if I can get out of a situation without having to shoot somebody, I'm going to do it.
So what are the odds of these bills passing?
Well, it's odd because we're in an election year, a very important election year. There's a reluctance, even among a lot of Republicans, as you have seen, the linguini spine versions especially.
We have plenty of them.
Ideally, I'd like to see it pass through both houses and land on Dayton's desk and now put up or shut up, right? He either has to sign it and tick off his anti-gun contingency, or not sign it and let a lot of voters in this state who might be Union Democrats typically, but boy, when their gun rights are in any way threatened, they'll jump across the line as they did with Al Gore. I mean, it's pretty well known that gun owners made the difference, costing Gore the election. And Democrats know that. He'd prefer that it never get to his desk, just as the national carry recognition bill that's in the Congress. Obama will never let that get passed out of the Senate because for the same reason. He does not want to have it on his desk. He'd rather vote present, right?
Exactly.
And that's, so I wish I were more confident with the Republican majority in both houses that I should be able to sit here and say, well, yeah, it's going to go on to Dayton's desk and he's going to have to sign it or not. I'm not that confident. I hope it passes. I support it completely, but I've seen too many wishy-washy types that are supposedly on our side knuckle under at the last minute.
And I believe if it makes it to Mark Dayton's desk, he'll veto it.
Oh, I believe so too. But again, see, he doesn't have to worry personally because he's not up for election this time. And by the time it comes around again, yeah. But if I were talking to Mark Dayton myself from a political angle, I'd say, hey, you got nothing to lose. Sign it. By the time you're ready for re-election, nobody of your constituency is going to remember or care that you signed it.
So and we'll have already proved everything was
fine. And they're going to vote for you anyway. Exactly. So the smart political play for him would be to sign it long-term for his own career. But I have a feeling that if he vetoes it, it could hurt Obama's chances in the state as well, because the gun owners would then be, oh, Democrats anti-gun again.
Let's just take a couple minutes and talk about that federal legislation. And, and you're referring to being able to carry guns across state lines.
In other words, let's make it like a driver's license. If Sue got a driver's license in Minnesota, she can drive to Florida and back, and everybody recognizes, even though they look different, they have different ages. You know, some of these rural states, you can get a driver's license when you're 14, that kind of thing. But we all recognize, you know, it's the Interstate Commerce Clause, which has been turned on its head, by the way. And so, well, why not the same with, well, that was a problem when you had multiple states that didn't have a carry permit, because then their residents would say, well, wait a minute, those two people from Minnesota, they get to carry in my state, but I can't? Now it's only one state left, by the way, now that Wisconsin has passed their carry permit law.
So you
unfortunately.
firmly believe that Harry Reid will never let it out of the Senate to
No,
get
no,
to
because
Obama's
Obama
desk?
doesn't want to have to make that choice. No, he does not want to have to sign it or not sign it. He wants to vote present by simply not having to deal with it.
Especially in an election year.
I guarantee you, it's been Obama to Reid. Don't you dare put that bill on my desk.
If people wanted to get more information about your class that you teach, or to have you come and speak about Second Amendment issues, where would they get more information?
They can just call me. I get calls at all hours of the day and night. I've had to call attorneys for people who got in trouble. 612-240-6080, or you can go to my website, www.sditraining.net.
Okay, now I want you to look into the camera, and I want you to tell people why you believe the Second Amendment is so important that we continue to fight to keep our right to bear arms.
It's a good point, Sue. The reason the Second Amendment is so important, and there are a lot of misconceptions about it, it was never about hunting or sport. The people who are trying to, if they could, overturn the Second Amendment, try often to say that, well, hunting is fine, sport shooting is fine, but nobody, quote, needs a gun for self-defense, or this, we have the police, all these other bogus arguments. But when they wrote the Second Amendment, the reason that they referred to a well-regulated militia is the idea of owning a gun for self-defense was a given. Nobody even thought of it as it being something to question. The idea that you have the right of self-defense, that's pretty much ingrained in every culture throughout the world, that of course you have a right to protect yourself, your family, and your fellow citizens. So they didn't write it for that because it was a given. They wrote it for the express purpose of saying free people have a right to protect themselves not just from domestic violence, but from governmental violence. They specifically put that in there to let everyone know what we're saying is everybody agrees you have a right to self-defense and you should be able to own firearms. If you were to ask them today, should a person be allowed to carry a gun, they would have said, oh, of course, why not, right? In fact, there are numerous writings amongst the Founding Fathers where they talk to he who goes unarmed as a fool, right? Who goes about the land unarmed as a fool. So there was actually an expansion of it. So they were saying, we believe you have a right to own, keep, and bear arms. And interesting in the choice of words, not just own, keep, but bear. What they said is you have a right to own and carry firearms, right? But they expanded it to get into the political sphere to say that ultimately, the ultimate protection of a free people against an overbearing tyrannical government is arms in the hands of the people. And that's been lost in all of the, what I call misinterpretations of the law over these years.
I'll never stop fighting for our Second Amendment rights. I encourage everyone to go out, get their carry permits. 92,000 Minnesotans already have it. The number's increasing, especially for women. And guns are not scary things. I love mine. Love it, love it, love it.
Well, God bless you.
So thank you so much, John Caile. Really appreciate you being here today. I think the listeners really enjoyed this. Thank you. We're out of time. If you find yourself agreeing with our guest, you might be a libertarian. To find out, take the world's smallest quiz at www.theadvocates.org. Remember, Libertarian Viewpoint brings you the non-government, liberty-based solution that other media refuse to tell you about. Liberty works, and it is always the best choice. If anyone in government can prove otherwise, I challenge them to speak up. To view past shows, search YouTube using Libertarian Viewpoint. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for other shows of Libertarian Viewpoint.